The Gaza Strip is in ruins. It is a place where hope struggles to survive. Years of conflict and a crippling blockade have created a humanitarian crisis of immense proportions. Families are living in squalor, deprived of basic necessities. The recent escalation in violence has only exacerbated the situation, pushing Gaza further into despair.
The international community watches with growing concern. The images coming out of Gaza are heart-wrenching. They tell a story of suffering and resilience, but they also serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of this protracted conflict. The situation demands immediate attention. The people of Gaza, particularly the most vulnerable, cannot afford to wait any longer. We must act now to alleviate their suffering and provide them with a glimmer of hope. The world must not turn a blind eye to this unfolding tragedy. We have a moral obligation to help those in need and to work towards a just and lasting peace.
Imagine a life without reliable electricity. Hospitals struggle to function, schools are forced to close, water becomes a luxury. This is the grim reality for the 2 million Palestinians living in Gaza. The Israeli blockade, in place for over 16 years, has severely restricted the flow of essential goods and services, crippling the economy and plunging the population into poverty. The recent conflict has only worsened the situation. Airstrikes have targeted critical infrastructure, including power plants and water treatment facilities. The result is a humanitarian catastrophe. Hospitals are overwhelmed with casualties and lack basic medical supplies. Families are forced to queue for hours for clean drinking water. The lack of electricity has also had a devastating impact on sanitation. Sewage systems have failed, leading to a rise in waterborne diseases. The health of the population, particularly children and the elderly, is at serious risk.
The international community must pressure Israel to lift the blockade and allow for the unimpeded flow of humanitarian aid and essential goods into Gaza. The people of Gaza deserve to live with dignity and have access to the basic necessities of life.
The streets of Gaza tell a tale of devastation. Bombed-out buildings, once homes and businesses, now stand as grim reminders of the relentless cycle of violence. Schools, hospitals, and places of worship have not been spared. The physical destruction is impossible to ignore, but the psychological scars run even deeper. The constant fear of airstrikes and the loss of loved ones have taken a heavy toll on the mental health of the population. Children, in particular, have been deeply traumatized by the violence they have witnessed.
The international community must provide psychosocial support to help the people of Gaza cope with the trauma they have endured. We must also work to ensure that those responsible for war crimes are held accountable. Reconstructing Gaza will require a massive international effort, but it is an investment worth making. We must help the people of Gaza rebuild their lives and create a better future for their children. Section 4. A race against time challenges to aid delivery. Humanitarian organizations are working tirelessly to deliver aid to those in need, but they face significant challenges.
The ongoing hostilities make it dangerous for aid workers to operate in Gaza. Israeli restrictions and bureaucratic hurdles further impede the flow of aid.
The suspension of funding to UNRWA, the main UN agency providing aid to Palestinian refugees, has exacerbated the crisis. UNRWA plays a vital role in providing essential services to millions of Palestinian refugees in Gaza, including healthcare, education, and social assistance.
The funding shortfall has forced UNRWA to cut back on its operations, leaving many vulnerable Palestinians without access to essential services. The international community must step up and provide UNRWA with the funding it needs to continue its vital work in Gaza.
We must also work to ensure that humanitarian aid reaches those who need it most, regardless of their political affiliation. Section 5. A global imperative. The need for immediate action. The situation in Gaza is a stain on the conscience of the world. We cannot stand idly by while innocent civilians suffer.
The international community must demand an immediate ceasefire and unimpeded humanitarian access to Gaza. We must also address the root causes of the conflict, including the Israeli occupation and the blockade. A just and lasting peace, based on a two-state solution, is the only way to prevent further suffering and bloodshed.
The time for words is over. We need action. We need a renewed commitment from the international community to find a peaceful solution to this decades-long conflict. Section 6. Breaking the cycle towards a sustainable solution. The current crisis in Gaza is a stark reminder of the urgent need for a just and lasting solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We cannot afford to wait for the next round of violence. The international community must work with both sides to create the conditions for meaningful peace negotiations. This includes addressing the underlying issues that fuel the conflict, such as the Israeli occupation, the blockade of Gaza, and the plight of Palestinian refugees. A sustainable solution must be based on international law, including UN resolutions, and must guarantee the human rights and security of both Israelis and Palestinians. It must also address the legitimate aspirations of both peoples for self-determination and a peaceful future. The road to peace will be long and difficult, but it is a journey we must take. The alternative is another generation condemned to a life of violence and despair.